Hey there, I'm Bex, welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I drew 100 dogs in 10 days. This was the most fun ever. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Day 1. At this point I was full of enthusiasm and really excited about this challenge. I decided to go easy on myself and pick a medium that I was familiar with, so I decided to go with watercolour. I wanted to challenge myself to draw lots of different dog breeds, focusing on different head shapes, different angles, different perspectives. Really try to get as much practice as possible with dog anatomy. The reason that I picked dogs for this is because I am absolutely a crazy dog lady. I love them so much, and I have never actually participated in or completed an art challenge before. I've kind of thought about Inktober a few times, but the prompts usually don't appeal to me very much. And after watching a video by Karp where she drew 100 hands, which is awesome, I will link it in the description, I felt really inspired to create my own challenge. And what better to choose than dogs, the thing that I am most passionate about. So I was pretty happy with how most of the dogs on the first page turned out. I was having a lot of fun just experimenting with colours, trying to keep my sketches quite loose and free, and just trying to focus on capturing the proportions of each dog. I wanted to include some full body dogs. I didn't do very many of these as I was quite restricted with time. It turns out that drawing 10 dogs a day is a very time consuming challenge if you are a bit of a perfectionist or a bit fussy like me, but I think that this was extremely helpful for breaking that habit of being maybe too self-critical or negative about what you're working on. You know, if I had a bad drawing, I just had to push through it, go on to the next one and forget about it. This aspect of the challenge was one of the most kind of exciting and interesting things. By the end of the challenge I was finding it a lot easier to just push through, and I kind of almost stopped caring if my drawings turned out good or bad, and I was more focused on just enjoying the process of painting, which was awesome. I see loads of drawing challenges across the internet and I think some of them are quite restricting, but honestly if you are like me and you struggle to follow drawing prompts from other people, just pick something that you love and draw lots of them, because that's half the battle. There were plenty of times during this challenge where I was really starting to get tired and giving up kind of hope that I would actually finish them. But you know, when you're doing something you love, you push through, and even at the points where I felt like I wasn't enjoying the process as much, I still found so much pleasure in just looking at all of the cute pictures. Oh my god, they were adorable. That's day 1 finished. On to day 2, and on day 2 I was feeling very adventurous, so decided to try using ballpoint pen only for these drawings, and this is the first time I've ever really sketched in ballpoint pen other than maybe drawing in the margins of a jotter in high school. So this was definitely a challenge. I was feeling quite impulsive and still super enthusiastic about the project, so I decided to jump right in. And I really surprised myself because this turned out to be one of the most enjoyable drawing sessions of the entire 10-day challenge. I loved every bit of it. I really surprised myself with the first few dogs. Thought my sketches went a lot better than I expected, especially with having no ability to erase. Each dog in this project took around 40 to 45 minutes. I couldn't really afford to spend any longer on these sketches than that because I had so many to do, and I am telling you, I missed out on a lot of nights sleep with this because sometimes you just don't know when to stop. But anyway, I would say, yeah, the first 5 dogs I had a pretty comfortable time drawing with the ballpoint pen. I had a lot of fun. They're by no means perfect, but I would love to see what I could achieve if I sat down and took my time to create a polished and finished piece, and I will surely do that at some point in the future. Definitely think my first page of dogs was a lot better than the second page. That's probably due to the fact that I was a little bit tired by the end of them. The white husky dog that I'm just starting now was one of my least favourite dogs of the whole project. It just wouldn't work, it looked so stupid, and I did end up using some white Posca pen to try to correct it because it was annoying the life out of me. But I like the boxer, and the final dog that I drew of the night I actually think pretty much summed up how I was feeling at the time. Dishevelled, tired and sleepy. Okay, so powering on through to day 3, Gouache. This was, without a doubt, the worst day of the challenge. I made the very stupid decision to use white and only one colour for each dog. I, for some reason, decided not to let myself use anything to make the base colour darker, which led to me not being able to get any kind of contrast. The colours that were darker are definitely better when I tried to go on to using the lighter colour, the yellows, the greens. Well, that was atrocious, to be quite honest. But you know, I was in too deep, I'd spent too much time to change my mind about what I was doing, and sometimes when you get to the point where you just accept that things are not working out the way you planned, it lets you loosen up and just be more experimental and just kind of let go a wee bit. So I eventually got into the flow of things and just accepted that it was a stupid idea, but I had committed. The square that was yellow, that is now green, and has a little dog on it that looks like a head of broccoli, is definitely the worst drawing of the entire thing, although there are quite a number of bad ones on this page. Broccoli dog takes the biscuit. He is, yeah, really some. And for the last dog of Gouache Day, I decided to paint a Dalmatian because I just wanted to mess around with those spots. Man, are Dalmatians cute. I think the most enjoyable element of Gouache Day was experimenting with painting without a sketch. I think this is a good exercise to push you out of your comfort zone, and it certainly helped me build my confidence in just going straight in there with paint alone. So, don't love the dogs, didn't have the best painting day, but I learned a whole lot. So here it is, Gouache Day finished. Next up, day 4, pencil. Originally, this day was going to be coloured pencil until I realised I was having an absolutely terrible drawing day and was not feeling particularly motivated. I was determined to get all 100 dogs done in 10 days and I wasn't going to give up. So to make this day a little more appealing for myself, I basically abandoned the idea of using coloured pencils after my first drawing was just a disaster. I took the greatest pleasure in getting some super glue and sticking down a bit of watercolour paper good on top of it so I never had to see it again until editing day. Upfront and honest, I was having a bad day, I didn't want to give up on the challenge, so I reached for my favourite pencil and just decided to have a relaxing day sketching, no pressure. I had a lot of fun playing with textures, particularly with the poodle. He had a very curly coat and the lighting was very interesting, so I had lots of fun playing with the electric eraser and trying to kind of show that texture. I think this was the point in the challenge that I was starting to get a little frustrated and hit the wall a little bit, so I definitely made the right decision by sticking to a more comfortable medium, and for the last piece I decided to do something a little different and cover my paper with graphite first and then go in with the electric eraser and the kneaded eraser to lift some of the graphite off, bring out the highlights, and then go in with the pencil and make it darker for the shadows. This was a fun way to use a supply a little differently, and it was a really enjoyable way of sketching, so if you haven't tried it, I would highly recommend it. So at the end of pencil day, I was 40 dogs in and almost halfway there. On to the next day, I used ink and Fineliners. Honestly, this was probably the day that I just needed a day off more than anything else. So I decided to do something really simple and really stupid. I blocked out 5 squares on each page and I had to go at doing some single line drawings. Drawing from start to finish without lifting my hand off of the page, and yeah, they turned out as terribly as you would expect, but I actually kind of think that they have a little bit of charm to them, and in the broader context of the project, I think they're a really fun addition. Some of them look so stupid, I mean, especially this guy on the brown background. I mean, what is going on? He looks so happy though. So yeah, I liked the kind of surprise of not really knowing how things would come out at the end of this, and how kind of free and just fun this was as an exercise. So if you're struggling with a bit of art block, or you're just having a bit of a rough drawing day, I would highly recommend this project because it was great and so stupid. The next day, after a bit of a break, I was feeling ready to get back to it, and man did I enjoy using this brush pen. I have not got a lot of experience in using them. I think it was like 2019 the last time I messed around with one, so I was really excited to try them out again. I love the work that other artists do with them. I think it is really outstanding, but it's not really my normal style. I loved this exercise because every time I picked up a new medium, I had to adapt my style to make things work, and that was a lot of fun and resulted in a lot of experimenting. Since I loved the vibrancy of the inks that I used for the single line drawing day, I made a really kind of abstract watercolour background, done my sketches in pencil, and then went over with the brush pen, trying to vary my line weight quite purposefully. But you know, as somebody with very little experience with these, that was a little difficult. I am not the most gentle person in the world. My gran always says I have a touch like an elephant, so to get those particularly fine lines was very difficult for me. These are by no means perfect, but this has got to be one of my favourite spreads from the entire project. It was nice to feel like I had had a successful experience working with a supply, and it's actually made me excited to pick it up again in future and give it another go. It is an absolute joy to get out of your comfort zone and discover a supply that you can use in different and interesting ways. I loved it, so yay, 10 out of 10, love the Micron brush pen. Anywho, without further ado, it is time to go to day 7, India ink. Now this stuff, I adore India ink. One of my favourite mediums to work in is watercolour. I really love being able to put down a fair bit of water and kind of let go of the control of the paint, and this is something that you can do with India ink, and I just think the patterns that it creates naturally are so beautiful. It's mesmerising to work with and I absolutely love it. I was feeling pretty good on this day and I was very happy to be using the supply. It is not something that I have used to paint with many times on its own, but yeah, this is something that it was really special this day. I want to do so many more of these, and I was so happy with the way that they turned out. It was really nice to take a step back from thinking about colour and just focus on the relationships between the values and trying to capture the character of each individual dog. I had a lot of fun also painting the back of the dog's head. I realised that that was an angle that I hadn't quite challenged myself to yet, so that was a very good find. I continued to paint an India ink onto the next page. So unfortunately I missed the recording for the Greyhound and I think Shih Tzu. I'm not entirely sure if it's a Shih Tzu, but another wee dog, because I'm a dum-dum and I didn't turn my camera on, but I managed to catch the rest of them and I really had a lot of fun. Typically the last few I think turned out pretty not great, but I was absolutely knackered by this point. I think this was at like 4 or 5 in the morning, so I was really ready for my bed, but I just couldn't stop painting. Oh, what a great day. This was one of my favourite days. I absolutely loved it. If you have not painted in India ink, do it. You will love it. It's amazing. At this stage, I had painted a whopping 71 dogs and was so excited for day 8 Posca pens. So for those of you that don't know, Posca pens are acrylic paint pens. I decided to start off by making a geometric background, just a bunch of random shapes, and I picked out a limited colour palette and painstakingly coloured them in. I had no idea the amount of work it would take to cover these with the Posca pens. I honestly spent about 5 or 6 hours on the background alone, so by the time I got to the dog caricatures it was quite late. But I thought that this would make a really nice surface to put some fun caricatures on, you know, really vibrant. I wanted to make it pop and I wanted it to be very different from my usual style. For each of the dogs, I looked at my reference picture and I done a very quick sketch on a separate piece of paper and deliberately kind of exaggerated the shapes of the dog's features. I then hid my reference picture and used my cartoony sketch as a reference for the final drawings, and to be honest with you, these turned out way more fun than I thought they would. They are vibrant, they are colourful, they are kind of silly, and I love them. So surprise. I mean, I usually gravitate towards more realistic style, so this was a big challenge for me, but totally worthwhile, and yeah, I think it turned out really cool. Love the Posca pens. I had a lot of fun working on the third dog with the big long droopy chops. He had such a cute face, and I also have a silver kind of metallic Posca pen which was really fun to add the glasses with. I think it's a nice touch and adds a little something to the piece. Another thing I really liked about the Poscas is that you can layer them up, so they're quite forgiving, you know, if you make a mistake or if you want to make a correction. You can just wait till it's dry, draw on top again, and give it another go. Since I only done 4 dogs on the previous page, which were really rather large, I still had 5 dogs to draw to reach the 80 that I needed, and it was really late at night at this point, so I decided to go back to doing the single line drawings, but to try it with the Posca on a watercolour background, and I'm glad I did, because this pug is so stupid and it's probably my favourite drawing of the entire challenge. I don't know what it is, it just turned out really silly and I like it. I wasn't ready to give up, I wasn't going to put myself back for the next day, and you know, these contour drawings, there is a certain charm to them. So although I was restricted with time and couldn't spend as long as I wanted to on these Posca dogs, I had a ton of fun on the first 4 and have absolutely no regrets about spending the bulk of my day making that vibrant and colourful background, because it's just fun and unique and the texture is really beautiful. You can see all the individual lines from the pen. I love it. Now on to day 9. I could not believe how close I was getting at this stage, and on this day I wanted to use alcohol markers. Since I had such an insane amount of footage already, I just went ahead and quickly sketched out all the dogs first and only recorded the marker portion of it. For this I'm using Windsor & Newton Promarkers. These are not the brush tip markers, they are bullet tip markers, and I don't have much experience with them, so I didn't know what to expect going in, and I was honestly like quite terrified. I'm using them on Bristol board instead of a sketchbook because my sketchbook has watercolour paper and it's really not suitable for using markers on. I wanted to do something a little different with these dogs and try to pick the colours that I had that were the closest to the reference picture. I wanted to make them look realistic, their fur to have texture, and I just wanted to see how much I could achieve with just the alcohol markers. And I was actually blown away by the variation in texture I could get depending on how I used the pen. I really like how the poodle's hair texture turned out, the curls seemed to work really well, and the chow chow was a lot of fun. It's amazing how much you can layer the pens to achieve colours that otherwise wouldn't be in the set. So it was a lot of fun to experiment with those. For my last marker dog, I really did mess it up. I wasn't happy with the initial sketch. I should have started again, but I didn't. I continued to work away on it and was hating how it was looking. And then for some reason, I decided to get a fineliner and make it a million times worse. To make matters even worse, I picked up my white gel pen and messed it up even more. So yeah, let's just move on. Forget about this one. After 9 long days, we finally make it to day 10 and the final day of the challenge. Now, at this point, I had drawn 90 dogs, which was absolutely nuts, and I was so stoked to finish up, and I wanted to finish strong. I'm glad I picked oil paint. I've not been oil painting for very long, but I love the medium. It is amazing. And I started off with some simple monochrome value studies. I thought this would be a good way to get a feel for things, and I didn't want to spend an excessive amount of time on the first few dogs because I had an idea for a larger piece that I wanted to make an actual decent painting out of. So I quickly sped through the first 5 paintings. You guys that know me might recognise the first dog. That is my dog Diggle, and I love him so much, and I was very pleased with how this painting turned out. Super cute. Not that I'm biased or anything. It was a lot of fun after doing the first one to just free paint again without any underlying sketch or anything. I always find this quite challenging, but it's quite a fun exercise, and it's almost like sculpting, you know, you're just kind of making things brighter to pull them out of the shadows or pushing things back by making them darker. It's a very fun and a different way to approach painting, and I think it's a really worthwhile exercise. I tend to find myself looking more for abstract shapes and areas of light and shadow when I'm working like this than looking for, you know, outlines and all the rest of it. So it's a different process, and it's a fun process, and I would really recommend you try it. I had a lot of fun painting this little pug. I thought it was really cute, silly perspective. And yeah, finished up with this husky. And finally, we reached the last 5 of our 100 dogs, and for this one I wanted to draw 5 Diggles. This is totally self-indulgent. Like, I love my little dog so much, and I never paint anything for my house, so this was a great opportunity to do so. During the day, I took a coffee break and had a nice little photo shoot with Diggle. I wanted to get different angles of his head, and I wanted to make sure that my lighting was consistent so that hopefully once they were all together on the same page there would be some kind of cohesion between them. I also decided to go with a limited colour palette on this one. I love the colour orange, so I picked out permanent orange, ultramarine blue, titanium white. I think I used a little burnt sienna as well in there, but that's about it. And I think this really helped pull the painting together. I felt like when the heads were all separate on the bright orange background that it looked just like a board with a few studies on it rather than looking like one cohesive painting. So I wanted to tighten that up, and I played about with a bit of abstraction. I wanted to have a lot of detail, not super detailed, but a lot of detail and a lot of contrast in the faces. and then I decided that it was just too stark on that orange background, so instead I pulled in some of that darker blue into the background area after trying with some burnt sienna and it not really doing what I wanted it to. So I brought in the darker blues and some greys to try and tie things together, and I played around a little with abstraction, kind of smearing the heads into each other. I think this definitely helped, and although it's not the best piece in the world, I had a lot of fun painting it. You know, I'm quite proud of what I managed to achieve in a day because that was a lot of work. Anyway, I am so excited. We are finally finished the 100 dogs and now it's time for the flip through. If you would like to participate in the 100 dogs challenge, tag me on Twitter with hashtag 100dogswithbex. Of course, if you're not a dog person, feel free to do this with any subject at all. I would love to see how you get on. I would love to feature some of your art on my channel if you do participate. Of course, if you really love any of the art that you've seen in this sketchbook, some of these designs will be available in my Redbubble store. And if you'd like to see what's going on behind the scenes, feel free to check out my Patreon. That's where I like to share things a little more regularly and give you a kind of sneak peek as to what's coming up in future videos. I want to say a special thank you to my wonderful patrons. You guys are amazing. You have allowed me to get a new light for the studio, so from here on out the video quality is going to be 1,000 times better. I also want to say a big thank you to all my family and friends who are just incredibly supportive. I love you guys so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. See you in the next video. Bye!